There's something about learning the guitar that's a little like finding hidden treasure. Each riff is like a clue, a piece of the map that leads you to the next big discovery. And for me, there were 7 riffs that completely changed my journey as a guitarist. Now these riffs didn't just teach me how to play, they taught me the language of metal guitar. So stick around, because I'm about to reveal which riffs leveled up my guitar playing, and you never know, they might just inspire you to pick up your guitar. We're kicking things off with a classic, Last Resort by Papa Roach. When I first heard that opening riff, I remember thinking to myself, I have to learn this right now. It was one of the first riffs that taught me how to control my aggression when playing the guitar. But what I didn't expect was how this riff completely changed the way that I approached metal guitar. When learning this riff, it really helped me learn how to properly palm mute whilst alternating at the same time. The first riff is the same riff as the second riff, but one of them is palm muted, one of them isn't. It's a great riff to start with because it's in drop D, but it sounds so much heavier because they have a clever way of using inverted power chords, and it's great for beginners, especially if, like me, you love new metal. This next riff was the most challenging riff for me to learn, and I'll tell you why in a moment. Now I couldn't make a list like this without including Master of Puppets by Metallica. This was the riff that truly made me understand the power of downpicking. It's relentless, it's aggressive, and it's a total workout for your picking hand. But what really blew my mind was how this riff helped me understand endurance and precision. It's not just about playing fast, it's about playing fast for a long amount of time and playing fast accurately. Trust me, it's not as easy as Hetfield makes it look. I'll share some tips that got me through this riff and kept me coming back for more. You want to build up your endurance. This is a long song, it's like 9 minutes or so. It's a lot of downpicking and it's a lot of new sections. A good way to build up your endurance is to play a small section of the song repeatedly in small bursts. Pick your favourite riff and play it maybe over and over 10 times until you get fatigued, then stop for a little bit and then have another go. Something I recently found that helps me with my endurance are these. These are sweatbands. These are my Jamie Slay's compression sweatbands. I think they help massively because when you wear them, they give you an added element of compression on your wrist, you wipe your forehead, you don't get sweat all over your guitar and make mistakes, and it means you can play for longer because it helps keep that blood flowing and you don't get fatigued as easily. This is one of the hardest riffs I've ever learned. Even still, I've been playing for 20 years. It's hard to maintain the endurance, the stamina, and the accuracy, especially when you're downpicking every single section of the song, and there's something like 12 riffs in this entire song. But I believe it contributed the most to helping me become a right-hand riff master, so I owe everything to Metallica, Master of Puppets, and James Hetfield himself. Moving on to Spit It Out by Slipknot. Now this one is a beast. I remember thinking, how does anyone keep up with the pace of this riff? But as soon as I started learning it, I quickly realised it wasn't just about speed, it was about precision. Getting those syncopated rhythms right taught me how to channel that chaotic energy into something controlled. But there's one key trick to nailing this riff that not many people know about. You have to get locked in with the rhythm section, the drummer and the bassist. It's a lot of repetitive riffs in Slipknot songs, and it's easy to trip yourself up. Don't think too much, just play with muscle memory, headbang if that helps, and just keep the down picks coming. Learning Slipknot riffs was probably the first time I learned to play in drop B, which as a teenager was incredibly heavy. Being able to control that distortion and that high gain and not make it sound too muddy, having the right string gauge, also learning to play with thicker strings because you're playing in a lower tuning, all of those things contribute to how this riff is actually pretty challenging when you analyze it properly. This riff will most likely be suited to heavier guitar picks because you'll probably be playing in at least a 52 or a 56 gauge for drop B. I learned to master octave chords, and then getting them to sound clean and muting that middle note is actually incredibly challenging still to this day. Next up, Walk by Pantera. Now, if there ever was a riff that taught me attitude, it's this one. Got that laid back groove, but when it hits you hard. Learning this riff was a real lesson in Southern groove. I quickly learned that there's more to it than just playing the right notes. You've got to feel it. You've got to play it the way Dimebag plays it. It's not a chromatic rundown of 3 separate notes, it's actually just a really deep bend. If you want to play it the right way, you've got to give it some Southern Texas bends. This is a song that I learnt later on, and it's quite a slow song. It's not many notes. It's all about the groove, the feel, and the power chord chugs. I was used to playing Metallica, Cradle of Filth, Children of Bodom at that point, so it really helped me pull it back, get into the feel of it, listen to the drummer, and play in the pocket. And it basically taught me there's more to metal guitar than just playing a million notes a second super fast thrash metal. Now here's a riff that took me by surprise. I'm With Stupid by Static X. Now, coming out of learning Walk by Pantera, that inspired me to learn more simpler groovy riffs rather than just a million miles an hour Metallica thrash metal. What drew me to Static X I'm With Stupid was the fact that it's just kind of a simple groove throughout the song, and both guitars actually play 2 different sections most of the time. They also play in C standard, which was also slightly tricky because I had to get thicker strings again, and it's actually one of those riffs that I still like to play today. When it comes to sheer, unfiltered rage, nothing compares to this next riff. Break Stuff by Limp Bizkit. This is one of those riffs that's just so straightforward, yet so effective. Learning this riff taught me that sometimes simplicity can be the most powerful tool. Wes Borland has a crazy way of making simple riffs sound heavy as, and also really complex. This main riff is just a power chord with bending in it, but it's all about the groove and the bend and the accuracy and the aggression in which you play it that makes it sound heavy as anything. If you've got patience, I'd recommend this for you as a beginner, but the biggest challenge is, even though it sounds simple, it's actually not. It's quite hard to bend a power chord with 3 fingers and keep all the notes in the right pitch, and then make sure that some of them bend when you actually want all of them to bend. That's quite hard. But if you start with this riff, don't be disheartened, because it is a little bit tricky, even for people who've been playing for a few years. But once you get into the groove and you nail it, and you hear how it sounds, it'll all make sense and you'll be a pro in no time. And this is the riff that started it all. Iron Man by the mighty Black Sabbath. I remember the first time I heard it. It felt like I was rediscovering heavy music all over again. When I first heard this song, I felt like it was too slow and it droned on for ages. But when I really understood it and I started to learn the riff, it taught me about the power of simplicity and space. How letting a note ring out can be just as heavy as filling every beat. But there's more to this riff than meets the eye. It's quite a tricky riff to learn. It's all power chords on the low E and A string. I only recently learned that Tony Iommi played really thin strings even in E, D and C sharp standard. So to get that extra thickness, he would play further down the neck, 12th, 15th, 17th fret, and that's something to bear in mind when you're learning these songs. You have to play them further down rather than moving higher up the neck onto the thinner strings. It's in E standard, but it sounds like the heaviest thing known to man. Especially when you first hear that intro, the I Am Iron Man section. He bends it up behind the nut, presses down on it, gives it some pressure, and then kicks in with the epic power chords. This is a great riff for beginners. Once you've learned how to do power chords and palm muting, you'll be able to play this riff in no time. It taught me how to sustain and ring out notes and be comfortable in the empty spaces. Make sure that you play every note on the beat and that you syncopate properly both your left and your right hands. Remember, every guitarist started where you are now. Learning those first riffs and pushing through the struggles. I know I've been there. The only difference between where you are now and where you want to be is the actions that you take today. I mean, I didn't get here by accident. I just obsessively play guitar and I put the work in night and day. It doesn't matter if you stumble or if you hit a few wrong notes. That's part of the process, part of the journey. Embrace the mistakes. What matters most is that you keep going, you keep striving, and you keep playing. Because every time you pick up the guitar, you're building something powerful. You're building your skills, your confidence, and your future. So go out there and make some noise. And if you need any extra support, check out some resources on my page, jamieslays.com. There's a link in the description below. I recommend you start with my essential gear list for metal guitar beginners. And if you're feeling overwhelmed from practicing all that guitar and you need to unwind, check out the Ultimate Metalheads Activity Book, now available on Amazon. Designed for adults, loved by everyone. It's a bit of fun, there's colouring in, there's word search, there's spot the difference, metal trivia from all your favourite metal bands. My favourite bits are the colouring in. Helps me stay mindful, takes my mind off the stresses of the world, and it keeps me away from doom scrolling on social media. And this is better for my mental health. So get your copy now, available on Amazon or directly from me in the UK. Signed copies while stocks last.